One of the many amazing things about modern digital modelers for guitar sounds is their versatility and their flexibility. The fact that you can go from the sound of a Fender Twin through a 1x10 speaker mic'd up with a ribbon microphone and instantaneously switch over to something like a Marshall JCM 800 through a 4x12 cab mic'd up by an SM57 is pretty much a trivial thing to do on any modern modeler. However, it can lead to one of the many pitfalls of playing live with this setup, and that is basically focusing too much on the individual sounds and not going for consistency, particularly in the cabinet impulse response that you choose. Now, if you're someone playing through a real amp and cab, or you're playing your modeler through a power amp and a cab, this isn't a problem that you have because you're not changing your physical cabinet on stage, and I highly doubt that the person running sound is changing microphones or microphone positions during a performance. So you probably shouldn't do it on your modeler, right? I'll give you a very quick example. I have set up a patch on my Axe-Fx here with 4 different chord tones. One is using a Fender Clean and Goodbye Plectrum, paired up with an IR of a 4x12 cabinet with some EV speakers, and I really like this clean sound on its own. It's just clean and smooth and pretty inoffensive. That on its own, like I said, works really nicely. It's what I think of as a very clean guitar sound. On the second scene here, I'm using an AC30 model with a matching 2x12 AC30 cab in there. And if I play on the bridge pickup in the humbucker mode, I get a really nice drive. If I use like a tapped pickup on here, I get a really nice Vox style chime. Third scene, I've got the classic Marshall JCM 800 2203 paired up with an IR that I made. If you want this IR for free, you can grab it in the video description. It's an IR that I made of my Marshall 4x12 with greenbacks. This is a classic combo. And then on the final scene, I'm using this FAS Stealth Blue. It's like an idealized 5153 Stealth, and I've paired it up with these IRs from a Recto cabinet, so an oversized boogie cab, a real classic in heavy music. I've got a ribbon and dynamic mic blend, and again, this on its own, I think it's pretty cool. So what's the point, Leon? What am I getting at? All those sounds on their own are really cool. They're kind of optimized for what they would do best in, say, particular sections of songs. However, if you try to use all of them in the same performance, it's probably not going to work that well. We'll talk about why in a second, but I'm going to go through that Vox, then the Marshall, then that FAS Stealth. Just very quickly, this is a mono guitar track. I put a little bit of stereo pitch detune on there to make it sound a bit wider. These are just some stems from a Ragdoll live performance.
Weathered by the storm, shattered into pieces, you and I, in revelry and isolation, much too far to fall, there's no way home, the night draws in, the night draws in. We are waiting for the sun to shine, shed my skin, lift the darkness from my eyes, no more tears to cry.
So you can hear going from the verse to the pre-chorus to the chorus, the guitar sounds are pretty wildly different, and as such, it's almost like a moving target that you're trying to hit when you're mixing that in with the rest of the song. And this is the really important point. Let's say you're doing live sound and a guitar player has a digital modeler plugged in direct and they're feeding you a sound and they give you those 4 different scenes where on the clean sound, you could probably very quickly dial that clean sound up into a mix with some drums, bass, and other instruments, and it would work fine. Similarly for all the other sounds in there. However, the things that you would have to do to make them work in the context of a full band where the sound of the drum kit isn't changing, the sound of the bass guitar probably isn't changing very much. Maybe there's a keyboard player, but they're an exception to the rule. They love to hog up space. The singer, maybe you've got a decent singer in the band. Maybe there's a few people singing in there. That's probably prioritized in a live context. But the guitar has this space to fill. And if you're using the same cab IR all the time, and the person behind the sound desk basically tweaks everything to work with that IR, no matter how distorted the signal is or what you're doing in the front, let's say the amp block here, let's say it's providing the tonal texture, whereas the cab block, that's placing our guitar sound in a particular place in the mix. If we're changing the cab, we're changing where it's placed the whole time. That should be like a big pillar in there, something that's going to hold up the structure of the song and hold up the overall tonal balance of the band. You can't be just moving that pillar around willy-nilly. So let's instead bring up some alternative sounds on here where I'm just using the same cab IR across everything. I'm going to be using my free IR in here. So across scene 5, 6, 7, and 8, we've got that consistent factor in there. Now, obviously, I've changed the cab. It's going to change the overall sound a little bit. So let's just hear those sounds again. And, I might want to go back and tweak them a little bit. Let's hear that same little mix excerpt, except this time I'm going to keep the cab IR exactly the same. And essentially all I'm doing with these different amp tones is changing the overall texture that's being fed into this tonal sandwich, but I'm maintaining that place in the mix.
Weathered by the storm, shattered into pieces, you and I.
Lots of dumb analogies in this video, but hopefully the idea comes across. Now, I'm not saying those tones are perfect for that context or that this is a good guitar tone or a bad guitar tone. It's just the concept in there of the cab IR being a fixed point. It's one less variable to think about. It's a type of bread that you've chosen on your sandwich. It's a placement for a pillar in the mix. I don't know, you could come up with all sorts of analogies in here. My main point is, and hopefully the takeaway is at the end of this video, that when you design your live presets, whether you're using an Axe-Fx, a Quad Cortex, a Helix, a Boss GT1000, a budget Nuex or Mua modeler, that finding a cab block that you can live with, that, kind of balances out across your cleaner sounds, your dirtier sounds, whatever else you want to use in there, is one way to just cut down on any unnecessary faffery in a live mix. Again, you're making the person who's doing sound that little less miserable. And at the end of the day, maybe that's all we really have control over in a live performance. I've found that using this particular IR, which again, you're more than welcome to grab for free and then use in your own presets, works really well for me in the type of music that I make. It won't necessarily work great for you in the type of music that you make, but I'm sure there is an impulse response out there or a stock cab block in your modeler that will do the job just fine. That's all for today, though. I might play you all out with some greasy guitar noises. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Is this something that you already do and this entire video has just been totally obvious, or is this something that's maybe new to you and it's something that you can incorporate into your presets? I'd love to hear from you. And if you dig what I'm doing here on the channel, you might want to check out some of the music that I make with my band Ragdoll. It's linked in the video description. Anyway, have a great day, and I will see you all next time.